Good morning, everyone. Here's what's bothering me today. Um, so something I see a lot of on my social media feeds are these posts that people will share, um, in the sense of, oh God, I can't believe people think this or feel this way. And it's always some variation from some conservative in the States, sometimes Britain, sometimes Canada, talking about, well, how come they get Black History Month? Where's my White History Month? How come they're allowed to have Black Pride, but I'm not allowed to have White Pride? You've probably seen this, some variation of this dreck. And I really wish that there was a way to just beam the following information into these people's heads just 24/7, because it's perfectly okay to be white. Because guess what? We have little Italies, we have little Portugals, and people are more than allowed to be proud of their Italian, Portuguese, German, French, Welsh, Dutch, Irish, Scottish, all these different heritages and cultural backgrounds that people have, you're allowed to take pride in. The town of Gimli, Manitoba is proud of its Icelandic heritage. Like, it's fine to celebrate your heritage. That's why you don't see people protesting St. Patrick's Day because, oh, well, come on, it's not just Irish culture. Where's, my little festival for Italian culture or for Polish culture or German culture? No one talks about that because it's not really a thing. Because, of course, you are allowed to have pride in your background. The problem is that when you're just saying white, it largely conveys the meaning of your skin tone. And to address the point of, well, how come they get to have Black Pride and Black History Month and Black Lives Matter? Because fundamentally, through an American centric lens, that history is one entrenched in slavery, discrimination, and violence. It's just something that should be really easy to get a grip on, but a lot of people can't seem to grasp this. See, I know, at least on my mom's side of the family, fairly consistently where the family comes from and when they got here into Canada. On my dad's side of the family, things start to dry up a few generations earlier, especially with regards to the Jamaican extension of my family. Because guess what? At some point, my Jamaican ancestors were brought there by white people from somewhere on the west coast of Africa. Black people in America, and to a certain extent in Latin America and even in Canada, can't identify where their ethnic origins lie. It's not like, as an example, someone in the West could easily say, oh, yes, I'm 1/4 Irish, 1/4 Dutch, and half Scottish, let's say. Fine, look, there you go. And you know that's where it came from, so fine, that's easy. Most African Americans could not say, I'm 1/4 Senegalese, 1/4 Angolan, and half Nigerian. That's not a thing, especially because most of these nations are younger than my parents. Most nations in Africa are fairly young. The boomer generation grew up around the time that most of these African nations first got independence. So it's also kind of false just to say, yeah, they came from the coast of Senegal, because there's all these different cultures, all these different languages and tribes and ethnic groups throughout West Africa and Central Africa that were exploited by white people back in the day to serve as labor for sugar plantations and cotton plantations and tobacco plantations. So, yeah, that's why things like Black Lives Matter and I'm a Black Man and Black Pride and Black History Month exist, as opposed to, say, Senegalese History Month, Ethiopian History Month, South African History Month. Because for a lot of people, in North America, especially the United States, they don't have that same history of being able to freely move around and know what culture and background they come from. That's why black culture in America, and especially the Deep South, is so distinct. And yet, we seem to have this disconnect in our societies where we still treat black people as though, how come you get to say and do this stuff, but I can't? Because most of us were never put in a situation that we had to claw our way out of. White people weren't enslaved in the West. It's not like, well, we're going to enslave black people. And I mean, also the natives, what few remain because disease and pestilence. But you know what? Just for fun, we're also going to enslave Slavic people. So yeah, if you have a Slavic person, that can be a slave. We're also going to enslave Chinese people, right? Like it's not the same. And while there have definitely been truly atrocious actions taken against immigrants who were not from the British Isles, basically, it's definitely been a harrowing and disgusting part of many of our histories, whether we are Canadian, American, Australian, South African, British, French. Basically, these white nations have historically been incredibly racist. But with regards to chattel slavery, the biggest offender by far has definitely been the United States of America, which is why, from an American perspective, seeing this idea of, oh, well, how come I'm not proud to be white? You're missing the point entirely. You're more than allowed to be proud to be Scottish, Italian, Portuguese, German, English, Welsh, Scottish, Norwegian, Swedish, Finnish, Russian. It's all fine, but if you're just talking about your whiteness, that is fundamentally different than the American idea of blackness because of the gulf in the history and freedom and opportunities that continue to affect America to this day. I'm Canadian and I can understand this. Why can't you? And that's what's bothering me today.